Let me be blunt. Becoming a great footballer requires some of the hardest work and determination.
In my mind, I'm always the best. I don't care what the people are thinking.
But staying a good footballer, that's something else. Because all the women, drugs, and partying comes along so easily. Let me clarify. I'm not talking about performance-enhancing drugs like steroids. No. We're talking about recreational drugs that have caused some footballers to completely fall off the wagon. One such player is Mark Bosnich.
Mark Bosnich is about to score, or is he for Australia? And he does!
This guy was an Australian goalkeeper who was absolutely killing it in the Premier League during the mid-1990s. He was so good that he made Aston Villa fans forget all about their previous goalie woes. He even helped his team win a League Cup in '94 and '96. But that wasn't enough for Bosnich. He had his sights set on even greater heights. So he moved to Manchester United to fill the shoes of the great Peter Schmeichel. And for a while, it seemed like Bosnich was unstoppable. He even helped his team win the Premier League title.
And they always have done. What they've had most recently is phenomenal success to go with it.
But then, out of nowhere, disaster struck. Bosnich tested positive for cocaine. He was dropped from the team and banned for 9 months. And to add insult to injury, no other club wanted to touch him with a 10-foot pole.
I feel a little bit for him because he performed very well in the Asian Cup when he took over, and his objective was to get Australia to the World Cup, and he did that.
So what did Bosnich do? Did he take responsibility for his actions and try to turn his life around? Nope. He fell even deeper into the clutches of cocaine addiction. He moved to Chelsea, but was fired in no time. And from there, his career went downhill faster than a sled on an ice rink. He only played 12 more professional games before retiring. Now, I know this may seem like a depressing story, but trust me, there are plenty more surprises in store. Speaking of surprises, Adrian Mutu's downfall was sudden and shocking too. Now, Mutu was a pretty big deal in Romania. He was a local legend with his team, Dinamo Bucharest, scoring goals left and right and center. So it was no surprise that every manager in Europe had their eyes fixed on this talented young footballer.
What shot is it? What a stunner! And what a way to mark his first game for Chelsea.
And who could blame them? Mutu was on fire when he hit from the Parma, scoring 18 goals in 32 games. So when he chose to move to Chelsea for a cool $16 million in 2003, everyone thought he was going to be the most lethal weapon in the arsenal of the new owner, Roman Abramovich. But alas, it was not to be. Mutu soon fell out of favor with his new team, and things went from bad to worse when Jose Mourinho took over as manager in 2004. You see, Mutu tested positive for cocaine that year, and when Mourinho found out, he wasn't exactly thrilled. In fact, he ended up torpedoing Mutu's career by firing him from the team. And it didn't stop there. Mutu was banned for 7 months, and his career went down faster than a pint of Guinness on St. Patrick's Day. Although Italian clubs were still willing to give him a chance, Mutu just couldn't stay away from the drugs. He was busted for another doping offense in 2010, earning him another 6-month ban.
Has been suspended from all football and football-related activity with immediate effect.
So there you have it. Adrian Mutu's career went up in smoke faster than a joint at Woodstock, and all because of a little white powder. Paul Gascoigne, just like Adrian Mutu, was a talented football player whose career got ruined because of substance abuse. Paul Gascoigne was England's most naturally talented player.
Oh, it's in! Paul Gascoigne for Rangers!
And boy, did he show it in the 1990 World Cup. But unfortunately, that wasn't the only cup he was interested in. He was also quite fond of the drink. Despite his love for alcohol, he managed to produce some great performance for Lazio and Rangers. But off the field, his life was spiraling out of control faster than a ball kicked by Ronaldo. He went into the Euro 1996 tournament surrounded by controversy, thanks to his drunken antics prior to the opening match. That's like starting a race with a hangover. And despite performing tremendously there, he was dropped from England's squad in 1998 due to being unable to curtail his drinking.
I was on 4 bottles of whiskey a year.
That incident basically ended his career at the top level. For a few years, he remained active with smaller clubs like Middlesbrough and Everton, but he was never the same star as he was.
I think the worst one when I went 4 months with no food or water, not even water, and 4 bottles of whiskey.
Now, let's talk about the Lionel Messi of his time. The following man was so talented that he still is considered one of the greatest footballers of all time, the one and only George Best. aka your grandfather's GOAT. Undoubtedly, George Best's alcohol issues curtailed his brilliant career. Even with his drinking issues, he managed to win the old equivalent of the Champions League with Manchester United in 1968. The same year, he also won the Ballon d'Or. In 1964 and 1967, he helped his team win the old First Division title. That's a lot of achievements in such a short time. Some even say that he is the most naturally talented player ever. It's not an overstatement.
You know, I think you have to be born to be able to dribble.
Are you born a dribbler?
I think so, yeah.
He was very good, but by 1974, at the age of 28, his top-level career was largely over, primarily due to his off-field antics. As it was, his alcohol abuse meant that he only achieved a fraction of what he was capable of, and even more tragically, it also led him to pass away at a painfully young age of just 59 years old. Speaking of the football great, there's another name that comes to mind who has his own share of drug abuse and controversies. But despite all that, he achieved an immortal status just like George Best. Diego Maradona could have been even better had he avoided drugs. Let's first talk about his achievements. El Diego, of course, dragged a relatively average Argentina side to victory in the 1986 World Cup, and almost repeated the feat in 1990, reaching the final where they were narrowly beaten by West Germany. In 2000, he was even voted FIFA's Player of the Century. Unfortunately, though, the Argentine genius suffered from major issues with drugs throughout his career, beginning in the mid-1980s. It's reported that Maradona became addicted to cocaine while playing for Barcelona in 1983. Despite this, he managed to maintain a remarkably high level of play. However, by the early 1990s, he began to experience major problems due to his addiction. It all came to a head when he tested positive for cocaine in March 1991 and was banned for 15 months. This led him leaving Napoli in disgrace and heading back to Argentina. By the time the 1994 World Cup rolled around, though, Maradona had begun a career renaissance in his early 30s. Unfortunately, it was all built on a lie. Here's what happened. In their first group match against Greece, Argentina beat Greece, but the post-match saw him test positive again.
The player Diego Maradona of the Argentinian national team has therefore violated the provisions of the doping control regulations.
This time for ephedrine, a banned stimulant substance. Maradona was sent home from the World Cup in disgrace and his career essentially ended. That was a sorry ending of a great career by one of the greatest footballers. Maradona himself has stated that he could have been even greater had he not become involved with cocaine. Now, these were one of the biggest drug scandals in football history, but if you want to know some more, check out the weirdest Man of the Match awards ever. Trust me, the last one broke the internet.